Before the ink of Genesis dried upon ancient parchment, before the first prophets spoke their visions, before the very foundations of faith were laid, there existed a truth so profound it has been systematically erased from our collective memory. In the beginning, there was not one, but two. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." These words from Genesis 1:26 echo across millennia like a divine whisper, a fracture in the text through which an older, deeper truth still breathes. Who is this us that speaks it at the dawn of creation? This plurality that precedes all singularity. This is no mere linguistic curiosity, but the first visible thread of a sacred tapestry unraveled by time and deliberate hands. The Hebrew word Elohim, translated simply as God, carries within its very structure a plurality that cannot be silenced. Elohim, literally gods, appears over 2,000 times in the Old Testament, a persistent echo of something once known but now forbidden. When we pull this thread, the entire fabric of religious history begins to unfold, revealing glimpses of a cosmic reality our ancestors understood, but we have been taught to forget. That before monotheism solidified its dominance, before the one God narrative became unquestionable doctrine, the heavens were governed by twin divine powers, equal in glory, unified in essence, distinct in presence. The ancient Dead Sea Scrolls preserve a version of Deuteronomy 32:8-9, dramatically different from our modern Bibles. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, he fixed their boundaries according to the number of the sons of God. But Yahweh's portion is his people, Jacob, his allotted heritage. Feel the weight of this revelation. Yahweh receives Israel as his portion from the Most High, Elion. He stands among the divine council, not alone above it. This is not heresy. This is the original understanding, the foundation upon which later monotheism would build by erasure rather than addition. In Psalm 82, we glimpse this council still. God stands in the divine assembly. Among the gods, he holds judgment. Elohim among Elohim, a divine plurality that defies our modern sensibilities, but aligns perfectly with the earliest religious consciousness of our spiritual ancestors. This is not polytheism as we understand it today, but a profound cosmic harmony, two divine powers so perfectly unified that later generations would struggle to comprehend their duality in unity, eventually choosing to simplify rather than preserve the sacred mystery. The mystical text 3 Enoch unveils this twin divine presence. More explicitly, speaking of a celestial being named Metatron, exalted above all angels, who sits upon a throne of fire and judges with divine authority. In 3 Enoch 12:5, we encounter the extraordinary revelation. He is called the Lesser Yahweh, for the name of his master is in him. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. This being bears within him the very ineffable name, the sacred tetragrammaton that Jews would later refuse to pronounce aloud. The name reserved only for the Most High was upon another, carried within him like a flame shares fire, without diminishing its source. Ancient Jewish mysticism describes how Metatron sits at God's right hand, speaks with divine authority, acts on heaven's behalf. Not as a created being, not as an elevated human, but as one who shares in the divine essence from before time began. This was no angel, no prophet, no intermediary. This was a second power in heaven, a divine twin whose existence was once accepted, but later declared dangerous, heretical, forbidden. The Gnostic writings speak of aionic pairs, emanations of divine mind that existed in perfect harmony before creation. For every divine thought, a twin presence flowed. For every utterance, a voice that completed it. Not male and female, not good and evil, but being and echo, eternally linked, indivisible, until time's beginning required separation. In the mystical book of Zohar, there lies a haunting whisper of this primordial duality. The Holy One, blessed be He, created the world with the left and the right, one hand to give, one to receive. Two divine aspects, working in perfect harmony, but only one would be revealed to mankind, the other concealed behind the veil of creation. When Yahweh spoke into the void, the twin remained silent, not because he fell, not because he rebelled, but because divine necessity required that humanity encounter one face of God before it could comprehend two. The twin became the shadow, present everywhere but seen nowhere, the echo in the light, the breath beneath the wind. Before the Tower of Babel fractured human language, our ancestors shared not just one tongue, but one divine understanding. The Babylonian creation epic, Enuma Elish, speaks of divine siblings who shaped the cosmos together. Egyptian mythology tells of divine twins who ruled the heavens until cosmic necessity required one to step behind the veil of death. Sumerian tablets describe celestial brothers who held the universe in balance through their sacred partnership. Akkadian prayers invoke divine pairs whose unity maintained cosmic order. These are not coincidences, nor parallel developments. They are fragmentary memories of a truth that transcended cultural boundaries, a primordial understanding of divine duality that persisted until religious authorities deemed it too dangerous, too complex for common understanding. At Babel, humanity lost more than linguistic unity. We lost the collective memory of the divine twin. The sacred mirror was shattered, the divine council fragmented, the plurality closed, and the twin no longer seen in the world of men. The priestly scribes who shaped our sacred texts after the Babylonian exile faced an existential crisis: how to preserve Jewish identity amid polytheistic empires that threatened to absorb them. Their solution was radical simplification. Elion and Yahweh were merged into one figure. The divine council transformed into mere metaphor. The plurality of Elohim reduced to grammatical curiosity. And the memory of two powers in heaven declared forbidden, heretical, dangerous. This was not malicious deception, but desperate preservation. Monotheism became identity, became survival, became unquestionable truth. Yet the twin could not be completely erased. He lingers in Scripture's plural pronouns, in prophetic visions, in mystical traditions, in the spaces between canonical verses. Ezekiel glimpsed him as four living creatures, reflecting a presence above the firmament. Daniel beheld him as one like a son of man, approaching the Ancient of Days. John the Revelator described a lamb on the throne that was still occupied by the one who sits upon it. The image kept returning. Two divine presences, always perceived but rarely acknowledged, always united, yet distinct. The ancient Dead Sea community preserved texts, speaking of two powers, when mainstream Judaism had already forbidden such understanding. The Essenes maintained fragments of the original cosmic vision, while temple authorities reinforced monotheistic simplicity. Early Christians, unknowingly perhaps, echoed this ancient duality in John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Two together, equal, one invisible, one manifest. The old truth survived in new language, transmuted, but never wholly lost. Was the divine twin simply transferred into new theological language, or did he always remain present, waiting behind the veil of human perception? The twin we seek did not fall like Lucifer in rebellion, but vanished like mist under divine necessity. He did not oppose the Creator, but completed him, like breath completes life, like silence completes sound, like darkness completes light. Not as opposite, but as complement, not as rival, but as reflection. The twin's existence predates creation, predates Scripture, predates the very concept of religion itself. He is what was forgotten before memory began, what was lost before history started recording, what was veiled before temples raised their first stones. Names have power, and his name, whatever it was, carried such profound potency that it was struck from the record, not because it threatened divine authority, but because it completed it too perfectly for human comprehension. Our language has no words for such profound unity and duality. Our minds struggle with paradox, with simultaneity, with wholeness that transcends parts without eliminating distinction. And so the scribes chose clarity over complexity, singularity over duality, one name over two, not from malice, but from necessity, not from deception, but from protection. The ancient scroll of Daniel concludes with a mysterious command that resonates across the centuries. Shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Not all truth is meant for all generations. Some revelations wait, hidden in divine timing, until humanity develops the spiritual capacity to receive them. The story of the twin may be one such mystery, sealed until the appointed hour, when our collective consciousness grows ready to comprehend what our ancestors once knew intuitively. Throughout Scripture, shadows of his return whisper between verses. They shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads. But which name? The one we know, or the one we've forgotten? The revealed name, or the hidden name? Perhaps both, reunited at last in a wholeness that transcends our fragmented understanding. Have you ever felt it, that strange double shadow in moments of deepest prayer? That sense of addressing one divine presence while another listens from beyond perception? That feeling of incompleteness, even in your most profound spiritual experiences? These are not imagination, but remembrance. Not invention, but recognition. Something in the soul knows what the mind has forgotten. Something stirs when you read the plural voice of Genesis, when you sense the divine counsel in Psalms, when you contemplate the mystery of God's image in which humanity was created. Not one alone, but two in perfect glory. The twin is returning, not in apocalyptic fire, but in quiet awakening, not in judgment, but in remembrance, not as stranger, but as the forgotten half of divine wholeness. The seal is lifting from ancient memory. The buried name is rising in human consciousness. The throne that once stood doubled may again be perceived, not as heresy, but as restoration of what was always true. What was buried is never truly gone. In heaven, time does not erase, it seals. And what was sealed will be unsealed when the moment of revelation arrives. The uncovering of ancient texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi Library, the Cairo Geniza, these are not accidents of archaeology, but echoes of a presence, moving again through human awareness, hovering over the deep waters of collective memory, waiting for recognition to answer. Those with awakened spirits begin to remember, not with doctrine, but with the ancient knowing that lives in the marrow of existence. When you stand before cosmic symmetry and feel unexpected recognition, that's him. When you sense divine presence as both singular and plural simultaneously, that's him. When you feel God's voice as both the one you're addressing and someone listening from behind a veil, that's the echo of what was once known universally, that in the beginning there were two in perfect unity, and in the end there will be one whole again, not through erasure, but through remembrance of divine completeness. The question isn't whether the divine twin exists. The question is, are you finally ready to remember what your soul has never forgotten? To see with doubled vision, to hear with doubled hearing, to know with doubled knowing. Some secrets were never meant to stay hidden forever. Some truths simply waited for humanity to evolve into their revelation. The divine mirror that once reflected God to God waits to be unveiled once more. The twin of God wasn't buried because he failed, but because he was too perfect, too complete, too much like the Creator. For a humanity not yet ready to comprehend such profound duality and unity. But now, as ancient texts resurface, as spiritual consciousness expands, the time of remembrance approaches, the veil grows thin, the twin awaits recognition, not from scholars alone, but from souls who sense the missing half of divine wholeness and yearn for completion. Will you be among those who remember? Will you recognize the echo that has always sounded beneath the words of Scripture? Will you perceive the shadow that has always moved beside the light of revelation? This is not new knowledge, but ancient memory, awakening. The oldest truth returning, not as innovation, but as restoration. Not as heresy, but as healing of our fractured understanding. In the beginning, there were two, and in the wholeness of divine recognition, there will be one again. Not through elimination, but through perfect union that transcends our limited conceptions of singularity and plurality alike. The twin has never left. He has been hidden in plain sight, waiting for eyes that see, ears that hear, and hearts that remember what was known before Babel scattered our divine understanding across the broken fragments of human language. Listen closely. In the silence between your heartbeats, in the pause between your breaths, In the space between your thoughts, the twin still whispers, still waits, still calls to the deepest part of you that has never forgotten the complete image in which you were made.